Well, mining magnate Clive Palmer has expanded his border closure challenge to include Queensland as he moves to lodge documents with the High Court against Western Australia's shuttered borders. He's adamant his bid is not a publicity stunt, but a move to fight for the freedom of Australians. I caught up with the leader of the United Australia Party, Clive Palmer, just a short time ago. Clive, what's the latest on your application to the High Court to reopen the borders in Western Australia and Queensland?
I'm sure the Premier's going to back down because I can't imagine she wants to hurt over 1 million Queenslanders and put people out of work and distress on families. We've got to alleviate that as soon as we can. And the Chief Justice of the High Court has indicated she can have the matter heard by the full bench in the first week of July. So whatever Mark McGowan says, it's coming to an end. You know, the people of Australia are going to get a chance to stand up and be as free as they should be and all they can be. That's what we all got to do as Australians, dig deep to make sure our country gets back on the right road.
Clive, what are people saying to you about these border closures and why are they so concerned?
Well, they're concerned because they want to work. They want to be productively engaged, especially the Queensland tourist industry. A lot of Australians in New South Wales and other states want to come here and have a holiday. They can't go overseas anymore, but our holiday industry is destroyed. On the Gold Coast, we've got 30,000 people unemployed, 30,000 families that don't know what the future holds for them or their children. And, of course, the same thing's true on the Sunshine Coast in North Queensland, Central Queensland, right across the state. Men and women want to contribute. They're positive people. The Labor Party's wholly negative, completely negative. They don't care. They're happy to stay home and destroy the state as long as the Premier gets paid, as long as Palachuk gets her $300,000, $400,000 at taxpayers' expense. She's happy. That's why she's always smiling when she comes on TV. She can't think what to do with it. So we've really got to get down and do what's right for our state, what's right for our country.
Clive, what would happen if the High Court ruled in your favour in early July? Would that effectively mean that the borders would be open straight away?
They would be. They'd be open straight away and we could get back to making our state as good as it should be and making Australia as great as it could be. And the federal government's taken extraordinarily good leadership on this. Scott Morrison's done the best job in the entire world in keeping us free from the virus. Our borders nationally, of course, will still be closed, and so they should be. And the only active cases, say, in Western Australia has been ones from overseas, not domestically. They've got 2 cases in Western Australia from domestic transmission, and that's a state of emergency. A state of emergency. So the precedent is you can have 2 people sick of any disease at any time and the government can call a state of emergency, stop you from working, can track you, can make sure that where you are, stop you from travelling. That's a very dangerous precedent for Australians. And we fought very hard in the First and Second World Wars to ensure that we had freedom in this country, that we didn't become a totalitarian regime, that there was free enterprise, and Section 92 of the Constitution says that trade and free intercourse will be free between the states. And if you go back to the constitutional debates, this is a critical thing, that we are one nation. The states came together to ensure that we could all work for the benefit of each of us. We're a commonwealth. That means when things get hard, we don't ditch some of our citizens. We stick together and we get through it. And that's what Australians have done for centuries.
You mentioned Anastasia Palaszczuk. Now, back in 2015, when she won that election, you campaigned pretty strongly against Campbell Newman, who was the incumbent Premier at the time. Do you regret in any way being involved in the demise of Newman and the ascension of Palaszczuk?
Well, I've certainly got to regret the ascension of Palaszczuk, and I certainly have to say that's very true. Certainly I had my problems with Campbell and some of the things that he did. But as John F. Kennedy said, he who concentrates on the past and the present loses the future. We've got to concentrate on the future of this state and what we can do to make our state better, what we can do to provide employment for our people, and what sort of leadership we can have. And the Premier's got no leadership at all. At one stage she says she's going to follow the advice of the Chief Medical Officer. Then when the Chief Medical Officer of Australia says there's no problem with opening our borders, she decides not to follow the medical advice because she wants to win votes at the next election. That's what this is about. But my advice to the Premier is she's going to lose the next election. She's going to lose votes because Queenslanders are a thrifty people. They want to work, they want to provide for their family, and they're sick of being stuck up and locked up. I flew into Queensland yesterday. I had one of her exemptions, but I was met at the border by 4 Queensland police officers with their commander standing in the back and a member of the Australian Army, and they went through and made me identify all of the people that were with me that also had passes, and they wouldn't let us freely travel in our own state. That's not the sort of society we want to live in. and you've got to do something about it. We're not talking about a challenge to the High Court, we're making one. We're not trying to raise money. I think Pauline Hanson's raised $17,000 and she said when she gets $1 million she'll do a challenge. Well, we're doing a challenge now. It's not about raising money for me or for someone else. It's about providing for the freedom of the citizens that live in this country. That's what it's about. That's what we have to focus on. Not the publicity, but on doing some action and making it count and bringing people accountable to the law and the constitution of this country and the principles it was founded upon.